Whodunit? Was it this guy? Was it that guy? You look shifty. You got something to say over there? Return of the Obra Dinn is a first-person puzzle game designed by Lucas Pope, who's perhaps most well known for his 2013 smash hit Papers, Please, a game in which you play a Soviet-era customs officer in a small Eastern Bloc country. Your job is to verify people's passports, essentially vetting them at the doorstep of your glorious dictatorship. Now, I always liked the central premise of this game, but never got too far with it, as I found it very stressful to go through every minute detail of people's passports to figure out whether or not they're allowed entry, all the while having to deal with a short time limit for each level and increasingly complex modifiers. So with all these difficulties getting into Papers, Please, I figured the Return of the Obra Dinn would likewise be a real challenge. And it is. But there's no time pressure to speak of here, so it's not going to stress you out as much. The basic premise is that you've been sent to investigate the ghost ship Obra Dinn, which stops just short of the English shore from its voyage around the Cape of Good Hope. The player is given two tools for solving the mystery. First is a journal with a crew manifest, a map, a glossary, the backstory of the ship, and a great many pages yet to be filled with entries on the fates of each crew member. The second is a supernatural compass that reveals the location and final moments of each crew member. Using these tools and their intuition, the player is tasked with figuring out just what the hell happened here, which mostly consists of answering the questions, who is this? And how did they die? You start off with a short tutorial of this in the form of a relatively easy to solve mystery of how the captain, first mate, and the captain's wife died, before you start to progress below deck where more deadly mysteries abound. The story is a puzzle that is solved in reverse, as one of the first things you see is the ending. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the visuals. This game looks great! It's clear that Lucas Pope has been working within a clear set of technical and graphical limitations to avoid having to hire a whole animation team. But this ultimately works in the game's favor. It harkens back to old monochromatic text-adventure games, and even has a bit of that Game Boy feel to it. You know what I'm talking about. There are 6 different visual settings to rotate through depending on which monochrome color scheme you prefer, all named after old 80s computers. I obviously felt the need to rotate through each graphical setting every 5 minutes before I eventually got bored and settled on one. Now, the monochrome aesthetic isn't just due to technical limitations, it's also an indicator of the design thinking behind the game mechanics. Just like classic adventure games, nothing is ever handed to you. You have to actively use your brain to deduce what's going on. The various characters aboard the Obra Dinn will utter a few sentences before they perish, but as you'd expect, it's rarely anything useful. Oh, it's you, my good friend, Mr. Pattinson.
I leave you alone for 2 minutes, and the wolves descend.
What's that kitchen utensil you got there? A pair of Fiskars Universal Scissors, $13.99, manufacturer's suggested retail price?
Ask me the most basic question. What do we eat?
Oh no, don't stab me!
Your scent is like a drug to me. The skin of a killer.
You always get to see how each crew member dies, but since the manifest is divided into an artist rendition of the crew, and a separate list of each crew member divided by rank, you don't actually know who is who from the start of the game. So while it's easy to say whether someone was stabbed, shot, or decapitated, the real challenge is figuring out whodunit. Whodunit. Unless, it was the giant sea monster. Yeah, there are some freaky things going on in this game, which I won't spoil for you. Luckily, you don't have to know the names of any arcane beasts to solve the puzzles. Maritime evil. That's actually pretty good, I should write that down. Maritime evil 2. It's a lot of fun deducing the events of the game, both in terms of who each character is, but also how it fits into the overall series of events. Each character's death is accessed as a memory, which functions as a little scene where everything is frozen in time, and you get to see who was in the immediate area at the time of the person's death, and what they were up to. If I had one complaint though, it would be that it can be a bit overwhelming to go from one memory to another in long succession without having sufficient evidence to piece together who is who. This is especially the case in memories where multiple people die one after another. It quickly turns into a bizarre Inception-esque journey from one memory to another. But then again, all of this is an integral part of the whole challenge, so it's difficult to say how that could be improved without essentially lowering the difficulty. In short, I would recommend Return of the Obra Dinn if you're in the mood for a slow-paced brain teaser. The story is straightforward, but presented in a way that is highly intriguing and forces you to learn the inner workings of the ship's crew. I picked up the Nintendo switchport and have been playing it half and half between handheld and docked. It's functional either way, as the interface works well with a controller, which is cool. Having the option to go handheld is always great in my book. Okay, so I actually hadn't written in the script any ending for this episode, so I think the only appropriate thing is to end with a series of poems to leave you in thought and thinking about what everything means. The same way that you're left thinking what everything means after you've completed this video game. So here we go. Here are a few poems for you. Roll the music. How still, how strangely still the water is today. It is not good for water to be so still that way. Langston Hughes. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. And there may be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. Lord Tennyson. Next. Papers, please. Alright, let's have a look here. What the hell is this? This is no passport. Denied. Get out of here. Yeah, that's right, get your ass out of here.